Hello and welcome to our first episode of Lincoln to Local of 2023. I'm Rachel Havens, and today we'll be talking through the first 2 weeks of legislative session and several top Farm Bureau issues that have already begun moving through the legislative process. Today we're joined by Steve Thompson from our Public Policy Department. Steve, legislative session kicked off with a bang last Monday, and legislators got right to work. We've already seen both chambers have their first Ag Committee meetings. Can you give us kind of an update on how those went?
Yeah, it was very exciting to get down to business. The first week was very busy overall, but the second week now we've really got down into the nuts and bolts of things and met with both the House Ag Committee and the Senate Ag Committee, and feel very good about the discussions that took place in there and really the vetting of the legislation that went on in there. I think you have sometimes a better question and answer and back and forth in that committee than you do in most. I know it feels like some of the other committees, there's more of a rubber stamp process occasionally, but you have a lot of good members and a lot of good advocates like our public policy team and field staff in the room for those meetings. And so it was really good to be amongst the ag and rural crowd and dig into this year's list of bills.
Definitely. And one of the things that we saw come out of those meetings is some legislation that advanced that increases funding for the OSU Vet Med program. Could you tell us a little bit more about that?
Yeah, that's one of our priorities to work on this session. A thing that our members have talked about for a number of years has to do with a deficit of large animal veterinarians around the state. And one of the things that our friends at Oklahoma State University in Stillwater have been putting together under new President Casey Strum's leadership is a plan to really step up the game of the College of Veterinary Medicine, and to do that required a funding increase and some administrative changes in the way that funding is handed out to them. And so we've been working with a large coalition to support that, and that really got moving for the first time through the process, and there were some good questions on that and some really good points made about why it's needed and how it will help them out and really begin to increase the pipeline that we see around the state for our producers that rely on veterinarians every day as an expert professional guide into the animal agriculture business.
Definitely. It's good to see that make some progress. Well, another thing that we knew we would see, especially in the first few weeks of session, is some legislation on county zoning and the establishment of hazard mitigation districts across the state. Can you give our members kind of an update on what that conversation looked like?
Yeah, along with some of the good, exciting things, we've had a few things that we're not as excited to work on, but we are having good success educating folks about why we have concerns about those bills. There's multiple bills in regards to zoning and rules and regulations that would be authorized under these bills on a county-based level that could have severe negative impacts in how you maintain your property and how your homestead would operate on any number of levels. And things that happen in, say, Tulsa County around town are a little bit different than they would be in our more rural counties. And so we're really trying to figure out how to work together with our urban neighbors on that, but it's been a bit of a challenge trying to make sure we all get our priorities addressed with that. And then from the Hazard Mitigation District proposal, we've worked on ad valorem ideas for a number of years that are really well-intentioned and well-meaning. But again, I think these have emerged from a more urban area where folks own less property and they don't really understand the burden that the increase to our bottom line would be if we saw an increase in those property taxes. So that is really truly one of the core fundamental principles that we try to keep in front of the legislature every year. And so we have good discussions going on that, but those are things that we might need to ask our members to help share their firsthand experience and some of the dangers that those pose. So those are things that we're going to be in communication with members as the session develops.
Definitely. It'll be interesting to see how that conversation progresses over the next few weeks. Aside from some of the work that the legislators have been doing, we had the pleasure of hosting our first 2 counties at the Capitol this week. Can you tell us, why are those visits important, and how can more counties get involved?
Those are really the highlights of our week, is when we have members from around the state come join us to discuss legislation and to learn more about that, and to really lobby their legislators and have a dialogue back and forth with that. And and their voice is really what we try to represent. And anytime we can get them directly in front of legislators, it really adds to the effectiveness of our entire team, as well as it helps make sure that we are focusing on the issues that we need to be focusing on as an organization. And we were very fortunate this week to have folks from Grady County Farm Bureau and Kingfisher County Farm Bureau join us for a day at the Capitol, and got to spend time with legislators and spend quite a bit of time around the Capitol. And we would want to make sure to put that on everybody's radar around the state, that anytime, it doesn't matter if you have a small group or a large group, the field staff can help arrange a visit for you to the Capitol. So that's really one of the highlights and one of the most important things we can do to advocate for our issues at the Capitol is to help arrange for visits of our actual Farm Bureau members to the state Capitol in Oklahoma City.
Absolutely. Well, finally, our state leadership conference is scheduled for next Tuesday here in Oklahoma City. Can you give our members kind of a sneak peek into what they might see there?
We're really excited to have that event kick off with our friend Lieutenant Governor Matt Pinnell is going to give a welcome speech to the crowd. And then we're going to have Secretary of Agriculture Blaine Arthur give an update on all the many things that her and the folks at the Department of Ag are involved in. And then in the afternoon, we're going to shift over to an update about some school financing and ad valorem tax issues, and really close out the day with some presentations from Congressman Tom Cole, who's the chair of the U.S. House Rules Committee and can give us an update about the changes in Washington, D.C. And then we'll have OSU President Dr. Casey Schrum come give an update about what's going on in Stillwater, talk a little bit about the veterinary medicine proposal we talked about. And we feel like the day will end on a high note with our legislative awards banquet and reception, where we get to honor some of the folks that really went to battle on behalf of Farm Bureau and our issues over the last year at the legislature.
Definitely. Well, it sounds like it's going to be an exciting event. Well, thank you, Steve, and thank you for joining us on another episode of Lincoln to Local.